Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Not here to make you happy, not here to make you sad. Your feelings are irrelevant when debates are to be had. The Belfast Bapcast, loud and clear, covering the topics of the sphere, Working overtime to bring you many stories, waking up today the same Labour and Tories. The stage it is and our part to play is bringing you knowledge in this way. No filter, no fuss, just tell unfiltered fact, much like the words on those Christian tracks.
Welcome to the Belfast Bapcast, and this evening's guest is none other than Cathy O'Brien, a name that has echoed through the underground research world for nearly 3 decades now. She's not a theorist and she's not a journalist. She is a survivor of what can only be described as government mind control, a program known as 𝐬𝐻-𝐾, later refined under what insiders would call Project Monarch. Cathy's book, Transformation of America, co-written with Mark Phillips, was published in the mid-1990s, long before the internet conspiracy ecosystem even existed. So in it, she recounts ritual abuse, political trafficking, and government-level programming that at the time sounded impossible. And yet, since then, we've been official declassifications confirming 𝐬𝐻-𝐾's reality, and whistleblowers across the intelligence, the psychiatric world, and obviously the survivor world, that trauma-based mind control and similar were used. So what makes Cathy's story so confronting is how specific it is with detail. The names, the locations, the rituals themselves, and the mechanisms of the programming, alongside the spiritual element that points to something a lot darker than simple government corruption. So, Cathy, thank you very much for joining us today on the Belfast Bapcast. It's an absolute honor to have you on. So, thank you.
Thank you very much for having me on and giving me voice. People are waking up to embrace the reality of mind control these days, and they're wanting more information. And I'm a survivor of CIA MK Ultra mind control, and I've been speaking out on it for over 35 years and healing from it, because I'm one of few survivors back then that was able to heal from within, to be able to reveal what in the world is going on and how resilient our body, mind, and spirit is, to be able to stand up against this imposed control mechanism that is being used on all of global society.
So I've watched you for close to 3 decades, interviews and different things, and you can actually see the development in you as a person throughout the decades, and how you've came on from the you were undeniably brave when you first came out, but your growth is undeniable since you've came leaps and bounds in the last 3 decades as a person, and obviously that's rebuilding yourself, and that's an absolute testament to you. So, taking it back to before you started having these memories and visualizations, what did you perceive life to be like?
Yeah, I was deep in the Washington, D.C. swamp among these global perpetrators that steal elections, use drug and human trafficking across open borders to fund their globalist agenda, and who are using mind control to usher in what Adolf Hitler, George Bush, Joe Biden, and a handful of self-appointed, self-anointed global leaders term New World Order. They've also called it the Great Reset. I'm sure they'll keep renaming it, but the point is it's a global slave society agenda, and they need us compliant. They need us compliant. They want us to align with artificial intelligence. And in order to do that, they need us dumbed down to their level, that flat linear thinking of their criminal minds, the flat linear thinking of the artificial intelligence, when in fact we have wisdom. you know, and wisdom outthinks their criminal mind every time. We have capacity for heightened senses and abilities to think way beyond what they are capable of doing in that flat linear way that they do. So their greatest fear, having been around these perpetrators, their greatest fear is the strength of the human spirit and the infinite power of love. That's too of a high vibration for them. They can't reach it. They can't possess it. The only thing they can do is use mind control to dumb us down and keep us compliant. And it keeps us where we forget to access that strength of spirit, to remember who we are and why we're here, to remember we've got the victory. We have no reason to be following these leaders we didn't elect. We have no reason to be following this dark agenda. But they don't want us to remember that.
On our human, obviously our human impulses. So they'll always activate fear before they try and implement some form of new draconian measure. And I think apart from COVID, the last time before that we can remember would be 9/11, where there was such a cataclysmic incident that just happened to be able to happen while NORAD was running the exact same simulation, etc. And then they were able to implement the Patriot Act and other things when people were in such a heightened sense of fear. They had this 176-page document just ready to go in under a day.
Right.
It was so beautiful. But before you were even aware that this was a thing in your life, what did you feel that life was? Were you like visually and aware that you were in this swamp, or did you think life was okay before like memories started coming back?
No, that the formula for mind control is the same, whether it's of an individual, a nation, a classroom, a military, or the world. Trauma is the basis of it. As you just so wisely pointed out, we've all been bombarded with trauma after trauma. And what that does is causes our conscious mind to freeze in fright and leaves our subconscious mind wide open to being easily led and manipulated, especially with something as simple as a repetitive media narrative like mask up, get the injection, social distance. How many times, So that programmed people. That's a formula for mind control. And in my case, I was born into a multi-generational incest-based family. My father was sexually and ritually abused. My mother was sexually abused and trafficked to my grandfather's Blue Masonic Lodge, where the secrets on mind control are kept. These secrets were imported into the U.S. in the wake of World War II through Project Paperclip. And that, people can research that for themselves. With them came this formula for mind control. Immediately, the 1947 National Security Act went into place to cover it up. The CIA went into place to enforce it. And these secret societies, that's what their secret is all about. So, and being born into that, it was all I knew. As an infant, I certainly didn't know what my father was doing was wrong, but my brain did. And it shut down those neuron pathways, repressed the memory so the rest of my mind could develop and function normally. That's the mind's sane defense to trauma too horrible to comprehend. When we're aware of this mechanism, we have control over it. Knowledge is our defense against mind control. That's why it was kept secret, why it's only in secret societies and secret meetings where these leaders, fly in their jets and chug in their yachts to determine our fate, because they're keeping it secret from us. Well, truth really does make us free. Knowledge is our defense against it. But I didn't have any of that knowledge when I was an infant. So to me, it was as though the whole world were that way, especially when my father was caught sending child pornography of me through the U.S. mails back in 1960. This was in Muskegon, Michigan. And he was approached by a local politician I'd been trafficked to since I was a little bitty toddler over at my grandfather's Blue Masonic Lodge, and told he could receive immunity from prosecution if he would sell me into MK Ultra mind control. So we're seeing corruption in the courts, allowing for the proliferation of pedophilia, which Hitler-Himmler research found to be the most horrific trauma on the human mind, especially prior to age 5 while the brain is still forming. It renders someone compliant and easily led for mind control. This local politician that invoked national security and gave my father immunity was Gerald Ford. This is the same Gerald Ford that went on to become the unelected president of the United States in the wake of the Kennedy assassination and ultimate, trauma. But that was how I got thrust into a White House Pentagon level, because as his political career escalated, so too did my victimization and MK Ultra mind control.
Yeah, and it's absolutely horrific, and it seems to be that power and evil goes hand in hand. It's not just about power. It's ceremony. There's ritual involved.
Yes.
It's a lot darker than just men wanting to be men. It's ritual based, and it's to make deals or whatever you want to call it with the other side to get to certain places, and it's just absolutely a horrific quagmire.
Yeah, that's very, very wise observation, that the Satanism was determined to be just right up, almost on a par with sexual abuse of a child, because the blood trauma is so horrific on the human mind, and the tortures and traumas that go with that. So as soon as my father sold me into the project, he was flown to Boston, Massachusetts, where he was trained by Cardinal Law of the infamous Catholic child abuse scandal. Cardinal Law told him how to manipulate my subconscious mind, and also established that I should be subjected to occult ritual from that point going forward. So I endured horrific satanic trauma in my local Catholic church, and not saying all Catholics are bad. All religions have been infiltrated, and all walks of society. So I'm not saying that there's good and bad in everything, but nevertheless, the Vatican was intricately involved in this, because the traumas that I was experiencing in the MK Ultra mind control programming that I began experiencing made it where I was used in blackmail operations in Mackinac Island, Michigan. And that's where these global leaders met back then. It was the Epstein Island of its day. And they used these pedophile blackmail films to hold each other in line. They don't trust each other either, so they hold each other by the blackmail, so to speak. So these blackmail videos that we hear about today have been going on my whole life, and I was being used in them then. And one of the aspects of it, my uncle was part of the Air Force and the CIA Black Ops and the Jesuit Alliance and everything else. And he was flying these blackmail tapes to the Vatican blackmail vault. So, that's one of the places that has the vault where these blackmail videos are being kept. And I'm sure that's coming out more and more. Archbishop Vigano did all he could to bring that to light and show what was going on there. We got a real problem in some of the highest levels of society and structure that we need to re-examine and realize exactly what's going on.
It's not about individual Catholics, because you can't be held accountable for the institution and what they're doing behind closed doors. However, if it's brought to light and you still go along, then you're complicit. That then you do have responsibility. And it's clear that Rome is the people look at the Jew, especially now, but your final boss is Rome. Everything goes back to Rome. Theodor Herzl, the founder of Zionism, was spent a lot of his time in Rome and was heavily influenced by Rome as well, and was known non-religious Jew as well. He was atheist, you know, so like Rome are at the top of every possible nefarious tree that you can think of. They have us enslaved and entrapped through every means possible.
Absolutely, and especially infiltrating the education system with the global education indoctrination that was designed after the Hitler's youth programming that was going on in Nazi Germany, and then it was brought to the next level technologically with computerization, harmonics, and that aspect. So history was rewritten in the textbooks, and the children began being taught what to think rather than how to think. So, that's an important thing for us all to look at and realize that our children are still being targeted in many facets of society.
Why do you feel America has been such a playground for this sort of behavior? I mean, obviously, in the United Kingdom, we have the Tavistock Institute and
right
our own mind control programs, etc., but none quite as significant or as loud as like MK Ultra. Or I'm a strong believer that all of the well-known serial killers are all MK Ultra products as well. I mean, there's no like why are they all in America? Do you know what I mean? It's just seems very suspicious that serial killers seems to be a very America only issue. And they've almost been mythologized and used as a part of generational history or generational markers. You know, they're sort of burnt into the folklore of life the same way they did with the music and Laurel Canyon in the 1960s. They sort of control every aspect of our, of our consumption. That's quite scary.
Yeah, well, when you research Project Paperclip and realize that we didn't win World War II, we imported it into the U.S., that makes a strong point. It's a globalist agenda, though, so it is worldwide. But in the U.S., these perpetrators, these globalists, took strong control of the United States with the Kennedy assassination. Kennedy was going to expose them and oppose what was going on. So they eliminated him and traumatized the nation. The repetitive media narrative after that, when I say Kennedy assassination, everybody sees the bullet going into his head because we all saw it over and over as a trauma mechanism. Well, Gerald Ford happened to be the one that covered up the Kennedy assassination so that these perpetrators could take control of the U.S. In the wake of that assassination became the electronic voting machines. They were rigged since their inception to place these globalists in key positions around the world. We got to get rid of those electronic voting machines. But they successfully put people in key positions of power and influence because Gerald Ford covered it up. He had the main players in his cabinet. And again, anybody can research for themselves. He had George Bush Sr. to head the CIA. George Bush was one of the worst perpetrators of MK Ultra globalist agenda of anyone, the New World Order. He even told us all that in the early 90s he was bringing in the New World Order. We had Dick Cheney and Donald Rumsfeld. Rumsfeld's the one who gave us aspartame, that artificial sweetener that stops critical analysis in the brain. That was one of the first assaults on our food.
And Tamiflu, wasn't he responsible for Tamiflu as well?
I think so, with his pharmaceuticals. And ultimately, I know the aspartame one especially was like a launch into the bioengineering and genetically altering of our food to starve our brains, because sleep, food, and water deprivation are also components of mind control. It's why our food is being tainted to starve our brains, make us compliant. Why our water has fluoride, starve our brains, make us compliant. Why we work 9 to 5, 5 to 9, round the clock, starve our brain of sleep and necessary rest. So this is all very deliberate part of making us all compliant to this globalist agenda that's attacking our humanity, ultimately our spirituality, because it's something none of us would go along with if we were thinking clearly to realize exactly who and what we're up against. But they were
Was
sneaking it in with Ford's administration. He was with Henry Kissinger. Can research that when they had the first depopulation agenda together. He had Jack Valenti, head of the Motion Picture Association of America, to control what the media told the people. And he came up with that term conspiracy theorist for anyone questioning the repetitive media narrative. Of course, we had Rockefeller in there too as vice president. So here we've got, the same perpetrators over and over again, because it's just the same handful.
it's always
And it
bloodlines,
started
isn't it?
wrong with the Kennedy assassination and through Ford. So I've witnessed this progression of the infiltration into the U.S. It's not that this has anything to do with the U.S. Constitution or we the people. It has to do with mass mind control and the erosion of our constitutional values, selling us out to the new
Without
world
getting
from the get-go.
too graphic, can you describe like a typical ritualistic ceremony that you would have went through to demoralize or to whatever, just to show people or to let people know what sort of level of depravity that these people actually are prepared to go to?
Yes, well, the sexual abuse that I experienced was child pornography and trafficking to the secret societies and everything like that. So very young, I was subjected to what so many have are being subjected to today, to the point where child sex trafficking is one of the most lucrative businesses in the world. That's how horrific this is, what it does to the minds. But I'm also living proof that we can heal from it. No matter what happens to us in life, we can heal, including ritual abuse, because again, they can't possess the human spirit. The only thing they can do is traumatize the brain so bad that we can't think to access it. And that is ultimately our saving grace, because no matter how I was tortured, no matter what blood traumas I experienced in satanic ritual abuse, my spirit was always in a safe, loving space while my body went through those tortures. And it was like an overview, near-death experience, because they would always bring on these near-death experiences. So from that traumatized state where my whole mind is being shattered, then I was being programmed at various military, NASA, and DARPA installations. And those DARPA installations are key, and it's something that people need to look into further, because ultimately these perpetrators have been following a DARPA-generated artificial intelligence plan all along on how to bring us down to that flat linear thinking. Well, being totally shattered like that and programmed, all I could do was exactly what I was programmed to do. I couldn't think to oppose. I couldn't think to save myself. I couldn't think to do anything other than robotically carry out the orders of these perpetrators.
What age did this continue to, Cathy? What age were you whenever you were able to step away from that situation?
How was I able to step away from it?
And what age were you as well?
I'm 30. I was 30
30.
years old, and I was going to be killed for what I knew about the groundwork for NAFTA, the perpetrators that I have named fully in my 1995 testimony for Congress, Transformation of America. National security was invoked on that testimony, but it shows all the black ops that I was exposed to and the criminal operations I was forced to participate in, and they were all validated by clean members of intelligence and law enforcement, Secret Service, everything else. So all the information in that book is validated. So I was going to be killed for what I knew at Bohemian Grove. That's what those rituals are really all about. It's killing off MK Ultra slaves so that they don't talk. We get electrochemical changes that happen in our brain around age 30 that could open neuron pathways, and they didn't want to take that chance. Mind control shuts them down. They want to keep them shut down. But fortunately for me, Mark Phillips, who was working the highest levels of intelligence mind sciences to preserve the sanctity of free thought, vehemently opposed mind control being used on individuals like me, on the military, on society as a whole. He saw how judges and people in positions of power and influence were being compromised by blackmail. He saw little children being taken in and out of the White House. And he saw our birthright information on mind-brain function that is our defense against mind control had been buried under national security ever since we brought the formula for mind control into the US. So Mark was livid, and he wanted to do something about it. He worked so high up in intelligence, he could be CIA, FBI, NSA, Secret Service, anything he needed to be in these key positions. He decided to take action since he couldn't reveal the information because he was bound by laws of sedition as an intelligence insider. So he took action and lifted my daughter and me right out of the Washington, D.C. human trafficking swamp in 1988. He rescued me while I was en route to my death sentence of being killed at Bohemian Grove. He intercepted and took my daughter and I to safety, and then handed me keys to my own mind so I could begin the healing process.
He was integral in that as well, the healing process. You mentioned there your daughter.
Yeah.
I remember seeing in quite a few interviews you had spoke at length about that. Also managed to get to her as well.
Yes, the criminal catchnet operation that I saw being set up in the United States through the FBI, through the so-called National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, all of which just funneled children back into our so-called child protective services. Ultimately, that's just a human trafficking operation. There's a lot of information coming out on that now as this corruption is being fully exposed by this current administration that we've got in. But that operation that I saw being put in place in the mid-'80s was used on my daughter. She was hospitalized about a year after Mark had rescued she and I, and she was medically kidnapped out of the hospital and taken into Child Protective Services. They have no due process. They don't have to have a warrant or a reason. They can just kidnap children. And that's what they're doing in the US right now. They just take children, put them into the trafficking program. Well, they took my daughter, and ultimately she is the reason that I began speaking out, because I was trying to free her of that corrupt system. I was trying to raise awareness on mind control and human trafficking. But this was back in like 1990, and people didn't really even have a point of reference. But it was love for her that compelled me to speak out. It wasn't hatred or bitterness or fear or anything else. It was love for her. So
well, that's
I
the thing I've always really appreciated about your story is it's long before, as I said in the introduction before this, like conspiracy ecosystem existed online, before Alex Jones was a thing, before you were out there as a pioneer and saying things that you couldn't just make up. There would need to be something severely wrong with the human mind to just create that stuff out of nothing, and it was so specific, and so the detail just so harrowing. Like, it's mind-blowing.
Yeah, there were many people in intelligence that were validating the information that I was remembering. Mark taught me to write out my memory, because the very act of moving a pen activates the logic critical analysis part of the brain. So it's taking emotionally incomprehensible trauma, shifting it over to logic, opening those neuron pathways in order to do it, writing it out on paper where it's consciously seen. So I began healing psychiatrically, psychologically, emotionally, spiritually, all at once. And this is an important little brain hack we all can use to reclaim our clarity of thinking when in the wake of any kind of trauma or grief or guilt or anything at all. We can use this trick. It's so important. If we just put writing by hand back in the school system, we can stop the indoctrination of our children because it opens neuron pathways in the brain. So I had this wonderful brain hack, which was allowing me to heal and reclaim my brain space so that I couldn't be triggered. The fact that I've been speaking out for 35 years and can't be triggered is a testament to the importance of healing from within, our birthright capability that we have been, that we forgot. We've all been led outside ourselves to look to big government, big pharma, big tech, big cult religion to tell us how to live our lives, when in fact we got all the power. And we were deliberately led away from that because, again, that's what they fear the most, is the strength of the human spirit and the infinite power of love. And because that is such a strong fact, I don't give them fear or hatred. That's their vibration. They got that from me the first 30 years of my life. I'm going to do everything out of love and live the love I am. That's a high vibration, and it gives me clarity. It keeps me going.
They'll find the bad and everything, and find a way to manipulate everything for the worst. So going back to Rome, who weaponized the Bible, kept it in Latin for so long, so that they could be the only ones who could interpret it, etc. And then even the Reformation, sure, it's became nothing but a farce as well. It's indistinguishable from the system it's left now. It's like, you don't need anything more than you and your belief and a book or whatever it may be, but it's within inside you, and it's with you and your creator. That's it. And that's what scares them most, isn't it? It is. They can lock you up, they can abuse you, they can do whatever they please to do. But if you know your worth and you've came to terms with that, and you're spiritually aware, and you get right with yourself, they can't really do fuck all. Their power is gone.
Yeah, and I've got a book that is just about to come out. It's called Align with the Divine, and it's about going within and finding that strength again, because people have forgot. They forgot. They need to remember who they are and why we're here. And I'm so excited with that aspect of the message, because it's a critical factor in being able to heal from within ourselves instead of through outside input, because outside input's going to lead us astray. Just like you were saying with the Latin, and them interpreting for us, we need to be able to critically analyze and think for ourselves. We look back at the Spanish Inquisition and the Crusades too. They're using violence and war to promote a religion. Something's wrong with that. And the spoils of the war were the children, and the Catholic orphanages were born. So, we as humanity need to examine those.
Ireland has a scary history with the child abuse and the convent-led orphans. There was over 100 found mass grave down south, infant bodies, and it's just horrific. And nobody's ever held to account, because they deal with it internally, and how they deal with it internally is move them to another parish to do it all over again. And that would suggest that the system and is rotten to the core, and not just the people that are within it. And there's a reason why they're not allowed to marry, why they're allowed to get to such levels of sexual frustration and deviation. That's so they can be controlled and led and coerced to be parts of the Catholic system. I fully believe that's all part and parcel with priesthood.
It's also why they aligned with the CIA, which is in my testimony. The CIA Jesuit alliance was very strong for MK Ultra because of what they knew of the effects of trauma on the human mind. So that alliance is real strong. It continues to be,
To this
and it's
day,
just part of this global system.
to this day, the Jesuit order are
Yeah.
pretty much running the CIA by proxy through the Mormon Church, running the
Yes.
FBI. It's insane, and it's there for everyone to see. If a fella in Belfast is able to see that, you know, I'm sure the rest of America is able to see that as well. You know, I haven't any experience with the Mormon Church, but I have read into them, and you know, I know that their secret societies are one in one with the likes of the Jesuits or the likes of Opus Dei or whatever, and they have an ecumenical agreement behind the scenes. And Charlie Kirk may
Exactly.
be another one who was got at by the Vatican, but that's another conspiracy for another day. But they're just so intertwined throughout everything. Like they pretty much started the CIA in its infancy whenever it was the what was it called originally? Sorry, OS or whatever it was first started.
I'm not sure. OSS or
They've
something like that.
always had a very strong either Jesuit or Jesuit taught led CIA, and as I say, by proxy FBI through the Mormon Church. And it's mad how they go through these structures because there's no need to really do the training. These religious structures have already done the training. You cover up for your brother, you say the party line, and you always look good on camera. You know, you always give a good public face, but it's an old boy system, you know.
The being at Mackinac Island, Michigan, the governor's mansion is located there, and the governor was George Romney's, which is Mitt Romney's father, and he was actively involved in MK Ultra mind control of individuals and nations, believed in the pedophile agenda, and also wanted to infiltrate the, really kind of establish the Mormon Church because this was so early on. And they took what the Jesuits and the CIA knew on mind control and took it to the next level by using harmonics, by using the technological aspects of it, and brought that into the Mormon Church. So the harmonics were in full play. So you've really got the exact same structure by design within the Mormon Church with the added dimension of technological harmonic manipulation on top of it.
So would you say that not only was the like the intelligence agencies and the religious agencies linked, but they without these two and the Operation Paperclip, MK Ultra would not be possible. You know, without the knowledge of the Vatican, without the knowledge of the scientists that were brought over during Project Paperclip. I mean, that's where rocketeering was brought out of Jack Parsons and Bernard von Braun, or whatever you call him. And
Disney.
Both deeply into Satanism as well. You know, Jack Parsons was like Aleister Crowley's best mate, and they were both into sex magic, and it's just and yes, Disney as well, known Nazi, also empowered by Project Paperclip. And like we look upon these now, and because of the introduction of the word conspiracy theorist, it's so easy to look upon people that are talking about stuff outside of the main narrative and go conspiracy theorist. But when we're sitting here with somebody who has been unfortunately a victim and now a ferocious survivor and advocate against it, and somebody who is talking about it reasonably articulately and knows about it, like it's there for everyone to see. Why do we choose to? Is it like a safety mechanism to choose not to see what's going on in front of you, or what?
People have been let outside themselves for so long that they don't even know what personal responsibility is anymore. Our justice system's been so corrupted that there's no accountability for actions. There's no consequence for action. And this has had an effect on the minds of society for the generations as intended. Hitler-Himmler research found that after 3 generations, any belief-based, knowledge-based, or belief system becomes autogenic in the brain. It's passed down. So that's why I was targeted for 𝐬𝐻 because of the multi-generational pedophile abuse, incest abuse in my family. That was, they thought it'd render me more compliant. Well, that's what Monarch sub-project is. And ultimately, Monarch is what's been imposed on the global population for generations to slowly condition them into compliance. So people are being born more compliant now. It's been more than 3 generations, but they can still wake up. I'm living proof. Soul is stronger than genetics. We can overcome it all when we have the knowledge that's our defense against mind control.
Do you remember the Soviet defector, 𝐬𝐮𝐫𝐽, who spoke about ideological subversion and how it takes 3 generations to ideologically subvert a nation? Mm-hmm. It's a famous interview. It was like the 1982 or 1983. And he was basically saying at that time that like stage 1 and 2 of the ideological subversion of the American mind is already done. They already had like 2 to 3 generations through the schools and through the college systems with liberal based Marxist teachers and this ideology installed in them. And now we're living in the final stages of that ideological subversion, you know, especially within America, where they've been able to weaponize division along every line possible. May it be race, may it be creed, may it be class, may it be political left, right, you know, Israel, Palestine, you name it, they're dividing amongst it. And you would think after such a visual display like 2020, there would be more people going, hold on here, I'm not going to allow this, I'm not going to be divided, I'm not going to allow them to play about with my emotions like this, because that's what they're doing. You know, they're bringing in all these immigrants and then winding up the local white residents going, oh, they're trying to like replace you, and it's like, oh, they're not going to replace me, and like it's like it's the same playbook decade after decade. They're just doing it with different wee pieces on the chessboard, and we're still just taking it like bitches. You know, it's so frustrating.
The Great Awakening is a reality that is happening, though, and the people are uniting. What we hear, you know, in the news and even social media is vastly different from the reality of what's going on with people waking up, taking back responsibility for their lives, getting out in their communities, making a difference, you know, where people are talking to each other, eye to eye, heart to heart, soul to soul, away from the internet, away from social media, and getting out there and taking action. That's happening on such a mass scale right now that I couldn't be busier, because I'm recognized for having healed and helping empowering others to heal too.
You also
they're wanting
haven't
the real
aged.
information. So
you haven't aged since like the first video I've seen of you. Like literally, you look like the same woman that I seen back in the early 2000s. You, unbelievable what you've been through, and like age is just clearly not a thing for you. It serves you well.
I'm so excited for what's happening now with this in 2016. So many people were awake and aware in the U.S. that they overrode the rigged electronic algorithm in the voting machine to elect a president that was not Hillary Clinton in the New World Order. So that was an extreme measure of what happened. Nobody was expecting it. The media didn't expect it, and the globalists certainly didn't expect it. Hillary certainly didn't expect it, but it happened, and it's a measure of the people. Well, they were so upset over that 2020 they went all in with mind control masks as a virus unleashed on the global population to regain control. And then now here we are with President Trump back in again. He's not only revealed the swamp, the funding mechanism of drug and human trafficking, gone against this globalist agenda, adamantly opposes MK Ultra mind control. This is amazing for waking up humanity. I'm not saying politics is our answer. It's not. It's up to each and every one of us individually to take responsibility of our lives. President Trump has told us all, so I'm giving power back to the people. You have the power now. That means we can get out in society, people helping people. We can make a difference without being obstructed. But they're slow to even realize what it means that we have our power back because they didn't know it was gone. So we've got this transitional time that we're in, but it is happening.
I would agree to a certain extent. I'm not by any stretch of the imagination suffering from Trump derangement syndrome, but what I do suffer from is having open eyes and noticing patterns. And Mr. Trump has been sort of pre-programmed into us from the mid-80s through Back to the Future 2, where Biff had he owned the big hotel room. It was like a New York top of the skyscraper, had his hair like Trump and all the rest. He's been included throughout other things. And then also his ceiling in New York and Manhattan, it's all Apollyon the Destroyer, is like the whole mural on his ceiling. Idiot is included throughout his whole life, and now that he's in power, he seems to just be doing the bidding of Israel on the global stage, which is not necessarily a bad thing if they weren't systematically taking out another race of people. It's just I feel that Trump is very much the sheep in wolf's clothing. He says all the right things and he appears to be doing all the right things, but then on the other hand, why is he making a deal with Palantir to bring in the digital IDs? And then there's so many red flags that I just feel that our answer is never going to come from the cesspool. It has to come without that. And yes, it's a very different time. We're made to think it's different because it's the Hegelian dialectic. It swung so far one way, where we weren't allowed to call a man, and now it feels good because that's been defined. But that's still within their paradigm of control, and I feel we all need to break out of this hope that government or anyone from that system is going to be the answer to anything. If you cannot get your own ducks in order and your own family in shape, you shouldn't even be beginning to look outside that sphere to solve any other issues, because
I agree with you. I absolutely. And there are so many things politically that I disagree with Trump on. My excitement is what was done to wake people up to the reality that mind control even exists, that child sex trafficking is the most lucrative business in the world, that MK Ultra mind control is even an issue. People are waking up to that. And again, knowledge is our defense. As we wake up and take self-responsibility, that is what my only campaign button I have ever worn was humanity for president. It's like when people lead, leaders follow, and we need to know who we are and why we're here in order to take that lead. We don't need this political structure. It's structured wrong on every front. When we start following these self-appointed, self-anointed leaders, we're being misled. We need to go within. We need to do it spiritually. We need to do it on every aspect of our lives and take personal responsibility. In that regard, that I'm so passionate about that. There's no way that I can be for any political answer. There's not one. It's not going to happen that way.
The spiritual answer that you talk about needs to come outside of a structured framework, because any of these earthly religions that we're presented with are control mechanisms, and they may have truth at their core. I personally believe the Bible is the truth. But each one to their own. But it's how that is interpreted, and how there was never supposed to be a priest between you
Right.
and the Lord. It was Christ paid that price on the cross. That was the bridesmaid. That there's no need for all these dirty pedophile priests and pastors and all the rest. They're all cults of personality. If you are going to the church talking about, oh, he spoke a good sermon today, if you're not going saying the Lord spoke through him or you heard the Lord, then you're more concerned about the pastor than you are the actual, idea that you're supposed to be there for. I think we need to strip it back to basics, understand what spirituality is, understand what really giving yourself over in prayer is, and that's just being silent and letting God speak to you. There's no need to go to a mad church or whatever. We have the answers all at our fingertips and within our hand. It's all there for us to access.
It is. We've got so much capacity within us that we've ignored because we've been distracted for so long. We have so much mental capability that we're not using, and it's exciting where we can go from here when people take back their power. Get out in nature, learn from nature. We can learn more from a walk in the woods than we can from this corrupt education system that, when you follow the money, just goes right back to big pharma, misleading the doctors, indoctrinating them to promote their drugs. It's our system is structured all wrong, and we need to get back to nature and get back to what we've been blessed with all along.
And how is your daughter, if you don't mind me asking?
Wonderful.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of her. She's amazing. She had the double whammy of MK Ultra mind control, followed by an abusive, horrific system. And we were separated. Oh, it was so hard. She's amazing. She's like my best friend in the whole world. We're very close.
That's amazing.
We celebrate every day that we're free. We don't live in a victim mentality of like, oh, we should have had this. We should, none of that. We're instead looking through the eyes of what our past, the knowledge that it gave us. It's like having a filter to look at today's events and have a better understanding of what's going on, to see people waking up, to see the spiritual evolution that ultimately is happening, because mind control is a spiritual warfare, and we're winning. We win by natural design. We've already got the victory within us, and more people are finally realizing that. So I get to share that view with her. We have great, profound conversations around here. She's amazing, and I think the most brilliant testament to the strength of the human spirit and power of love.
As I said, I've been gonna die here. I've been watching you for close to 30 years, a couple of interviews, and obviously I've seen quite a progression in yourself. Would you say that, well, I certainly am asking this for a reason. I feel like I have seen you taken advantage of in the past. Like, people have used your story to catapult their notoriety and just weaponize something that should not be weaponized, basically, and that's only a perception for me. But how do you think about that?
I'm about the other survivors.
No, I mean, like some of the people who've interviewed you have had their own agenda, basically, is what I'm getting at, and I feel like it's not been so I'm not going to get into specific people, but I feel like some of the interviews I have watched, it has been more about elevating them than telling your story, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and it's been quite a journey all these years in speaking out. And when Mark passed away in 2017, I lost my hero, my soulmate, my best friend, my love, and decided then that I was not going to let my heart break in two. Instead, just swell to double size, carry his love with me, carry the wisdom he gave me, honor him with every breath with the strength that I am, because he gave me the ability to heal from within. So I'm so strong in who I am that, people can manipulate my story and my circumstance to their agenda, and it doesn't matter. Truth stands, and I'm going to stand strong by it. It's like even Transformation of America has been posted as free ebooks all over the internet with the information distorted and changed to say that they made me one of them, part of the New World Order. And it's not, there's no limit to the distortions that people want to assert. But nevertheless, truth stands strong, and I'm going to stand strong, and I'm just going to keep bringing that truth to light as long as I'm here.
And, everyone's a good judge of character, and everyone knows when somebody's lying, and you do not hold the face of somebody who's lying, Cathy. And I really appreciate you taking the time with me today, because obviously I'm only 3 months going, so we're only a relatively new show, but we really do like to have conversations with people who matter and get topics out there that are very important, because not only is what happened to you ongoing, but it's happening on a mass scale now. It's happening through Facebook, it's happening through Instagram. It's on a populace now. It's not just individuals, and it's important for people to be aware. And you're amazing, Cathy, so thank you so much.
Thank you for having me on. I tell you, I really appreciate what you're doing, bringing truth to light with so much wisdom and insight. I deeply appreciate you, and thank you so much for having me on. Great discussion.
Cathy, I will be putting all your books and all your links, etc., in the description. So this has been the Belfast Bapcast, Cathy O'Brien, and if everybody could like and share, I'm just going to pause the recording, and then that's us.
Yeah. Not here to make you happy, not here to make you sad. Your feelings are irrelevant when debates are to be had. The Belfast Bapcast, loud and clear, covering the topics of the sphere, Working overtime to bring you many stories, waking up today the same labor and Tories. A stage, it isn't our art to play, is bringing you knowledge in this way. No filter, no fuss, just tell unfiltered fact, much like the words on those Christian tracks.